wasn't sure if I was going to bother talking about it. I don't want to put down mothers. Keep this to Patreon. Me making a fuss about nothing. That's not the point of this channel, where my experience just isn't one that I think sharing is supportive for the community. Hello and welcome to my channel, Bevy with Beth. I'm Beth, and here on this channel I talk all about PCOS, the symptoms, how to cope with them, and how they affect me in my day-to-day life. So if that sounds something you'd be interested in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below to catch my videos every week. And I did also recently launch a Patreon. So the goal for this channel is to really support the PCOS community, and I'd love to be able to put out more useful content rather than just the free YouTube videos. So if you're interested in supporting the channel, I've got a 1-tier level where you will get access to all of the community updates, so you'll know what's going on, and you get access to my YouTube videos earlier than when they get published on YouTube. And then I also have the 5-tier level where you'll get an extra monthly vlog every month, which is a bit of behind the scenes, kind of talking about what it is that I'm planning, and a chance to get some input in there where you can suggest what you would like to see from me. So if that sounds like something that you were able to do, then check out the link in my description to join my Patreon today. And now we're just going to have a look at some of the things that I won't be talking about on this channel. I do actually, for once, have a beveragino, keep myself hydrated. If you haven't got one already, because this is going to be a bit more of a talky one than a vloggy one, then go and get yourself a beverage and maybe a snack, because I want to talk about what I don't talk about with PCOS. And I want this channel to be for a very specific type of person, which is somebody who's like me. So the first thing I won't ever talk about on here is fertility. Personally, I am not interested in becoming fertile, in having my own biological children. I'm not really interested in having children at all, to be honest, but never say never. So I do know that I don't want to get pregnant. I don't want to carry my own children or pass my damaged genes on to the next generation. That's not of interest to me. So all of my PCOS health focused, how to manage hormone levels, what to eat to be healthy with PCOS, all of those kind of things are just for me to feel healthy, for me to be well. And it was one of the things that I really found lacking in the PCOS community, and is of course lacking in the healthcare aspects of PCOS, whereby you don't get diagnosed with it unless you're trying to have a baby and struggling. The whole point of becoming better is so that you can have a child. And too often I think I don't want to put down mothers. I don't have that experience, so I don't know what it's like. I just feel like, as somebody without a child and without planning to have children, very often PCOS influencers, people who are trying to support women with their PCOS journeys, their goal is to have a child. More power to them, that's absolutely valid. But then of course, once they become mothers, their focus shifts, and so they're naturally more concerned about their children and motherhood and getting through that aspect of their life, because obviously that becomes the most important. And I feel like the support kind of drops off for people who aren't looking to be fertile but are wanting to get their symptoms under control. So I am not looking to make myself fertile. I won't be doing any pregnancy tests. I nearly said ovulation test then, but of course there may come a time when an ovulation test, depending on what I'm experimenting on, might actually be quite helpful. So I won't be doing a pregnancy test. I'm not trying to get pregnant. There will be no motherhood or any of that kind of content coming from me. I'm here to make my PCOS manageable for my day-to-day life, because I want to live as happy and healthy as possible, and having children is not part of that journey for me. Another thing that I'm not really going to be covering on my channel, or at least not covering anymore, because it is something that I've talked about in the past, and it is really tricky. Again, I'm not going to say never on this one, because the content I've made in the past has obviously been some of the most popular, in as much as the algorithm has pushed it out there, because it's a highly searched, you know, not quite clickbaity, but people want to nose at it, and that is the facial hair growth as a result of the high testosterone that comes from PCOS. And the reason I'm not going to talk about it anymore, probably, is because the main bit of feedback that I got from those videos from people with PCOS, not people who don't have PCOS and are just looking to find a circus freak, but people who actually are suffering with PCOS, is that I think particularly on camera, my beard doesn't really show up, and so most people kind of saw it as me making a fuss about nothing, and doing the comparison where you're watching someone and they're saying, oh, I've got a beard and I struggle with this, and all the I've got to deal with this and it's hard and blah blah blah, when there's nothing that you can see that even remotely compares to what you're currently struggling with. And so although I know that I do get a lot more facial hair than is considered socially normal for a female presenting person, and I do have to do things like shave and that kind of thing to maintain a more normal looking level of hair on my face, it's not as extreme as some people do suffer with, and there's not a lot of support that I can give with that when I'm not suffering as much as they are, and as much as I don't think it's worth comparing. Like, if you struggle with something, you struggle with something, and I know that that is something that I have, and it is something that week to week I do have to consider and maintain. I don't want to be up here and making other people feel more uncomfortable that, you know, if I'm struggling with that and I've got nothing in comparison to what they're currently experiencing, if it makes them feel like their situation is even worse because mine is comparatively so easy, then that's not the point of this channel. It's not what I want to promote in the community. So I won't be talking about my bearded lady life anymore. And so kind of following on from that, really, where my experience just isn't one that I think sharing is supportive for the community, and that is with ovarian cysts themselves. So I only had outside of the body ultrasound performed as part of my initial diagnosis process, and no cysts were found at that time. And I've never bothered to kind of follow that up. At the end of the day, PCOS is a metabolic disorder, and so you don't necessarily have to have cysts or, you know, have severe issues with cysts in order for it to be confirmed as polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's kind of mislabeled in that way, that cysts are quite common, but they're not actually part of the diagnosis criteria. So it's not something that I've struggled with in the past, but I actually had a bit of an experience recently, and so it's not something that I'm planning to share again, and it's not a full story that I've got this time, but I just wanted to share with you what has happened recently, and then kind of say that that's it. You know, unless I end up in a hospital the way, you know, in that kind of excruciating pain or need some kind of medical intervention, I think there are people out there with polycystic ovarian syndrome where the cyst aspect of it is something that I could never comprehend. So same with the bearded lady life, and I don't want to be talking on something that I can't really offer much experience or support with. So it's a topic that I just won't be covering here. So just before I show you the clip that I actually took during the experience, so it's the kind of only vloggy section of this video, I did want to ask that if you actually do have experiences, the cysts on your ovaries, or if it's another aspect of PCOS that I haven't discussed before, or one that you want me to discuss if you think I haven't covered it yet, and so you want to kind of put in suggestions, to pop that in the comments, and to help us to create that community here where people who have a different experience from me for whatever reason, they can still be a part of this community, but I don't have that information, but we can share that still together to create that community. So if you have anything, any stories that you'd like to share, any experiences that you want to talk about, then leave them in the comments down below so that we can start building that community and sharing all the different experiences that you can have with PCOS. And I will leave you with my most recent exciting event. I wasn't sure if I was going to bother talking about it because it really might be nothing, but I also do think now that it is a cyst, so I think it's worth talking about. It started yesterday, this quite intense, I mean, yeah, it is quite intense. It's really difficult to judge. Oh God, the pain. It was at the level of when I've had a kidney infection before. And so given that it was a kidney infection, like a proper full-on infection, had antibiotics type level infection, I think it's safe to say that's a fairly intense pain. It started yesterday and it's like under in my hip. Like it's not my hip joint, but it's under my hip bone, where the location of the pain is. And it's definitely not my kidneys or my bowel. So there's no evidence of it being those parts. So I think it is my left ovary, and I've actually developed a cyst that's painful, which I've never had before. So I've been dealing with the discomfort of that, and yesterday it was quite dull, like that proper over full feeling that you can get with trapped wind and that kind of thing. But today it became quite a sharp pain. I used heat, that seemed to help a little bit, and I've taken full-on painkillers, paracetamol and ibuprofen today, and I think this afternoon it's a bit more comfortable, so I'm going to take it again with dinner. I think I'll keep this to Patreon if it just goes away, and then obviously if anything bigger happens then it will move to YouTube. We shall see how it goes.